back to Star Wars Lads. So we're halfway through the bracket challenge. Thank you all so much for voting. If you've been voting in it for your favorite Star Wars characters of all time, we usually do the bracket videos either at the beginning of the bracket or at the end of the bracket, discussing and recapping your brackets as well as introducing the brackets. So we do one of the two. We're changing it up this time. This is a long bracket. I wanted to put out a bracket video, and usually you guys don't get to see us do the bracket ourselves. I'm going to be going through the entire bracket today and doing all of it. So this is honestly an incredibly hard bracket, probably the hardest bracket we've ever done. We've seen countless comments about the torturous decisions that you've all had to make, so I'm going to subject myself to that. I'm going to put myself through the bracket on camera for all of you guys to see. So if you're watching this video, if you're just subscribed to our channel and you found this and you're like, what the heck is this all about? Every single month, 2 months or so, we do a community section bracket challenge. That means we put out polls every single day, but currently we're doing it twice a day for you to vote in on a specific topic. Last month was video games. The month before that was the Star Wars movies and TV. The month before that was Star Wars novels. We're at Star Wars characters, and we're doing a massive big 64 character bracket here. So if you would like to participate, make sure you are looking at the community section every single day. Also, we offered this last time, and we still will be doing a recap video, but we offered this last time. If you want to be a part of that, check the description of this video and check the pinned comment. Make sure you're checking those posts and those comments for a link to the bracket itself so you can submit your own bracket. Send us a JPEG of it, a PNG of it. Send it to us at our email, starwarsladsbusiness@gmail.com. You can see it on the screen here. We will feature you in the video. Send us whatever name you would like to be featured on a graphic in the video. We'll talk about your bracket. No shade thrown at anybody like you've seen in our past when we've done these. We don't like bash your brackets. We don't roast your brackets. We just like to have fun and see everybody's opinions. Okay, let's bring in this bracket. So I'm going to be starting this here. And this is a pretty easy one. Anakin versus Starkiller. Gotta go with Anakin. So this is when we get to like the middle seeds. This was our 32 seed versus our 33 seed. Jaina Solo, 32 versus 33. Darth Plagueis. This is an incredibly tough one. Jaina, obviously the Sword of the Jedi. An incredible character with tons of story. However, you know me. You know my favorite novel in all of Star Wars is Darth Plagueis. I think Darth Plagueis is one of the most interesting, fascinating Sith ever. And as somebody who likes the dark side, loves to explore the Sith, have to go with Darth Plagueis. Next is Cal Kestis versus R2-D2, and this one should be a lot less close than it is for me. Cal Kestis, Jedi Survivor, made him one of my favorite Jedi. I still can't go against R2-D2. So this one shocked me in the bracket. We have Mace Windu versus Lando Calrissian. You guys all went with Mace Windu. As much as I like Mace Windu, and he is a good character as a symbol for the decline of the Jedi, Lando is Lando. I mean, come on. I gotta go with the coolest man in the entire galaxy. Emperor Sheev Palpatine versus Sabine, another great character who unfortunately had to be seated pretty low because there's so many great characters in Star Wars. Palpatine's one of the most maniacally goofy, funny, evil villains ever. Gotta go with Palpatine. Boba Fett versus Bo-Katan. If we're just talking canon, this might be closer, but Boba Fett's extensive Legends history, have to go with the original Mandalorian bounty hunter, Boba Fett. Captain Rex versus HK-47. As much as I love HK, he's hilarious. One of the best parts of the KOTOR games. Captain Rex all the way. Next, Chewbacca versus Cassian Andor. This is a close one. Again, Chewbacca, great character, great side character. Obviously, you can't understand what he says versus a character who's very deep and well fleshed out with Cassian. It's a tough call here. I'm going to go with Chewbacca, though. Han versus Darth Sion. Definitely Han. As much as I like Darth Sion, he is my least favorite of the Sith Triumvirate. Ezra versus Darth Malak. This one was super tough, and as much as I like Ezra in Rebels, I think he's wonderful in Rebels. Darth Malak is one of the coolest Sith of all time. Great design and a great foil for Revan. This was a toss-up in the air, and I think I'm going to go with Ezra because I know this is maybe proactive, but I think he's going to be amazing in Ahsoka and whatever film we get from Dave Filoni. Jacen Solo versus Marchion Ro. This is also a very, very tough one. I'm going to go with Jacen here, but Marchion Ro is one of the best Star Wars villains we've gotten in canon, like in any type of material. Maybe after phase 3 comes out, I might be even closer, but it's hard to go against Jason. Jason's amount of story, his significance in the Star Wars universe is unparalleled. Mara Jade versus Gilad Pellaeon. As much as I love Pellaeon, I'm a big Pellaeon fan, probably bigger than most people. I've got to go with Mara Jade. Darth Bane versus Plo Koon. This was a pretty close one in the polls. Gonna go with Darth Bane. Darth Bane's one of my favorite Sith of all time. Quinlan Vos versus Din Djarin. Din Djarin, a great newer character with The Mandalorian, obviously got some great story. I gotta go with Quinlan though. The Republic comics and Legends are fantastic, and I love Dark Disciple. Okay, so people are gonna want to know my opinion on Wedge versus Rey. I'm not a Rey hater. I do like Rey. I think she's a good character. I cannot wait to see what they do with her in the future in New Jedi Order. I think there's a lot of room to do some really interesting stuff, especially plaguing her with the dark side, having been a Palpatine, adopting the Skywalker name, all these great things that I think they can make so many cool new ideas with. But I am a huge fan of the X-Wing books. I really love Wedge, what they were able to do with Wedge in those books, as well as the comics. I've got to go with Wedge, as much as I do like Rey. Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Exar Kun, if you know me. You know this is easy. Obi-Wan Kenobi, as great as Exar Kun is, it's Obi-Wan. So the way the matchup mode on the Bracket Fights website works is they make you do the entire one side of the bracket before you do the other side. So we're going to jump into the round of 32 here and talk about Anakin versus Darth Plagueis. I love Darth Plagueis, my favorite Star Wars book of all time, but it's Anakin. It's Anakin. He's the story of Star Wars. This one's tough. R2 versus Lando. So R2, there's just that like language barrier, right? Like not knowing what R2 says makes him slightly less endearing to me. As much as I love him and he's wonderful, I'm going with Lando. Palpatine versus Boba Fett. Love Boba Fett, but it's got to be my favorite maniacally goofy villain, Palpatine. Rex versus Chewbacca. Again, Chewbacca, great side character, great companion character, makes Star Wars what it is. But Captain Rex is the clone, in my opinion. My favorite clone of all time. Got to go with Captain Rex. Han versus Ezra. Ezra, great character. Looking forward to more. Can't go against Han. I know a lot of you argued for Ezra, even though Han won, but it's Han, man. So here's where it gets really interesting. Two of the best Legends characters of all time, arguably the two best Legends characters from like the Skywalker family outside of the main, Skywalkers. This is really tough. I am a fan of Jason Solo. I like his journey, his arc, but I think for what Mara Jade has done for Luke, Mara Jade being part of some of my favorite Star Wars stories of all time, I've got to go with Mara, though. Mara is a character that I just personally always appreciated her journey. Darth Bane versus Quinlan Vos. Quinlan is great, but it's no contest for me. Bane is one of the best Sith of all time. Same with Wedge and Obi-Wan. As much as I praised Wedge in the last part, I cannot go with him over Obi-Wan. Anakin versus Lando, same thing. I love Lando, but it's Anakin Skywalker. He is Star Wars. Palpatine versus Captain Rex. So this is one of the toughest ones, I think, in the entire bracket for me. Now, looking at this, excited to see what way all of you vote. Palpatine, one of my favorite villains of all time. So maniacally goofy and evil and just rich in villainy. Rex is the clones. Like, he is the embodiment of the Clone Wars, one of the main characters of that series, doing incredible things still in canon throughout Bad Batch and all of that. This is really tough, and it is... there's no winning here. There's no winning here, and I now feel for all of you when you're picking. I've got to go with Palpatine. Palpatine's one of my favorite Star Wars characters. I love talking about Palpatine, making fun of Palpatine, imitating Palpatine's lines, doing the corkscrew. So much about what I love about Star Wars is Palpatine. So, gosh, and this is tough, but I gotta go Palpatine. Han versus Mara Jade. So this one is also tough. I love Mara. But, still not having seen her in any film or TV definitely makes, as much as I love her, like Harrison Ford, the iconicism of Han, I've got to go Han. Darth Bane versus Obi-Wan. Darth Bane trilogy, 3 of my favorite Star Wars books ever. Obi-Wan Kenobi, though, one of my favorite Star Wars characters, bar none. A lot of nostalgia and love for Obi-Wan. I'm going Obi-Wan. So that puts us at Master versus Apprentice, Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader versus Sheev Palpatine. Oh man, because I love Palpatine so much, I'm actually tempted to take him just because he's like been an integral part of my Star Wars love. But it's no question Anakin is the better character. Obi-Wan versus Han Solo. Han, again, great character, one of my favorite parts of the original trilogy. Gotta go Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan versus Anakin. The Battle of Heroes. Oh man. I can't wait for when this gets to the actual community bracket, because I have a feeling this is going to be what comes out of this round. I love me some Anakin. I love the battle. Obviously, if we're taking power into consideration, Obi-Wan wins it the first time. He wins it the second time. Obi-Wan, I've mentioned it so many times on our channel. He was one of the things that got me into Star Wars. I played as Obi-Wan on the playground when we were designating Star Wars character roles. I was Obi-Wan. Other kids were Anakin or other Star Wars characters. Obi-Wan's been a huge part of my life since the origins of my interest in Star Wars. So even though Anakin is probably the best character in Star Wars, I'm going with Obi-Wan. So that throws us all the way to the other side of the bracket. A little bit easier matchups. Luke versus Admiral Akbar. They're going with Luke. Padme versus Cad Bane was a controversial one and actually a really close matchup. Padme is a great character and has been developed even better across novels and across, of course, comics, the Clone Wars, both Clone Wars series. Cad Bane, I've often said, is my favorite bounty hunter of all time. I love Boba Fett, but Cad Bane, there's just something about him. I love the Wild West style, the voice, everything about him. Love Cad Bane. I got to go with Cad. Fives versus Grievous. This was an upset, the biggest upset in our first round. Grievous is awesome. And if you include Legends, the Star Wars Clone Wars appearances are incredible. One of the scariest Star Wars characters ever. But Fives, man. Fives is the character that finds out about Order 66. One of the most tragic stories in all of Star Wars. And even though Grievous has some great origins and some great stuff in Legends, Fives is one of the best clones of all time. I'm going Fives. Revan versus Mon Mothma. Unfortunately for Mon Mothma, she is a great character. Andor has done some wonderful things with her. Obviously, we got a lot of expanded universe stuff with her as well. It's Revan. Maul versus Nihilus. Nihilus is a really cool character, but obviously a lot of his backstory is given in kind of lore books and source books. Where from Maul, we got the main character of the Clone Wars in Solo, one of the best parts of Star Wars Rebels, credible history and legends, going Maul. Kylo Ren versus Darth Traya. So this went Darth Traya. I was actually shocked this went Darth Traya in their polls, mainly just because I feel like a lot of people don't know who Traya is. And I agree with a lot of you. She is an incredible villain. The best part of the Sith Triumvirate, for sure. Awesome Star Wars character and one of my favorite parts of the Old Republic. But I'm looking at this in Ben Solo's journey. I love Ben Solo. I think there's a lot more to come from Ben Solo. And this is one of the tightest matchups for me, too. I have a really hard time picking. Adam Driver's performance as Ben Solo is the best part, bar none, of the sequel trilogy. It's incredible. It elevates a lot of the material, especially of The Rise of Skywalker and of The Last Jedi. There's a physicality to the character, a really interesting pull back to the light, like a obsession with the dark, but a pull back to the light that I really like. Freya, one of the smartest Sith ever, a very maniacal genius. God, that one's tough. That one's really tough. I mean, like, either way, I feel like I'm not I'm not gonna be happy with who I pick either way. Man, I've been thinking about it. I'm sitting here thinking about it, and man, I feel like there's a lot more to come from Ben. I feel like there's a lot more to come that's going to round out his character. I think there's going to be some really great stuff here in the future with books and comics and stuff. I think I'm going to go Traya right now, though. Traya is super fascinating. Yoda versus Grogu. Love Grogu. He's a fun little character. Very hard character for me to seed when we were doing the seedings, but it's Yoda. Kyle Katarn versus Count Dooku. I like Kyle. I'm a big fan of the video games. Jedi Outcast is incredible, but Dooku was super interesting. His life story is incredible. Tales of the Jedi added a lot to it. Dooku Jedi Lost is awesome. All the things about Dooku make him one of the more tragic characters in Star Wars. Gotta go Dooku. Leia versus Malgus. Malgus is one of the more interesting Sith of the Old Republic. I really like his story overall. Not a huge fan of Deceived, his big novel. But this is also no contest. It's Leia. Mitra Surik versus Grand Moff Tarkin. Mitra Surik, again, kind of like Nihilus, is a character that, when you look at KOTOR 2, great story, a lot of good stuff in parts of the Revan novel, and some cool stuff that they've added in the Old Republic. However, a lot of her story are in source books or in information that you've gotten from backstory in the Old Republic, whereas Tarkin has been one of the characters that I think has been dramatically improved with canon. I'm going with Tarkin, but Mitra Surik, this one is close, but I think Tarkin does edge it out. C-3PO versus Echo. I love Echo. Echo's a great clone. C-3PO is one of the funniest characters ever. Like, I love C-3PO. He makes me laugh. Qui-Gon versus Hondo. Hondo, wonderful character. A great, hilarious smuggler, swindler type of pirate character. But Qui-Gon. Gotta go Qui-Gon. This one's also interesting because Bastila definitely is a top-tier Legends character. Like, an incredible Legends character. But Thrawn Thrawn is one of the most iconic villains ever, especially since we're including Legends and canon. Two great appearances in two continuities for Spastilas only in Legends. Gotta go Thrawn. So this is also a really tough one. I love Corran Horn. Like I said, huge fan of the X-Wing books. Jedi is fantastic. He's great in New Jedi Order. He's great as a part of Luke's Jedi Order, one of the fundamental pieces of Luke's Jedi Order. And I'm excited to see more of Corran Horn in the future. I think we can get some Corran Horn stories here. But looking at film and television, that just hits a little harder for me. And tracking Kanan's story across the entirety of Rebels was amazing. He is the best part of Rebels, the best character in Rebels. One of the first in canon to really get the post-Order 66 Jedi treatment before we got Cal Kestis, before we got all these other characters who have survived. I'm going with Kanan. He's one of my favorite parts of canon. Ahsoka versus Marin. Again, Marin, great character, even better in Survivor, but it's Ahsoka. Gotta go Ahsoka. Ventress versus Jango Fett. Jango Fett is great in Legends, hasn't gotten the canon due he really deserves, whereas Ventress is great in both. I love Ventress. I think she's incredible. I'm going Ventress. Luke Skywalker versus Cad Bane. Again, as much as I love Cad Bane, Luke Skywalker. Fives versus Revan. This is a tougher one because Fives is so incredible, but Revan is one of the iconic pieces of Star Wars Legends. The character you think about when you think of the Old Republic. I'm going Revan here. Traya versus Maul. Again, we had some comments about Traya, and she is a great master manipulator, an incredible character. One of the reasons I picked her over Ben is just because of how unique she is as a Sith. But I'm going Maul here. Maul is a better character overall, in my opinion, a more tragic character. Yoda versus Dooku, Master versus Apprentice. As much as I love Dooku's tragic story, Yoda for me, he takes the cake here. Leia versus Tarkin, easily for me, Leia, as great as Tarkin has been recently, it's Princess Leia. Qui-Gon versus C-3PO is a really tough one. Qui-Gon Jinn is an incredible character, so layered and so different from Jedi. Getting to see a lot of the early effects that will eventually are pushed onto Anakin through the lens of Qui-Gon, someone who's able to fight through the pressures of being suffocated, versus C-3PO, which is the ultimate Star Wars comic relief, the first character we ever really get to know in Star Wars. This is really tough because as much as C-3PO is endearing for me in my heart, I've got to go Qui-Gon here. I think he is a better character. Thrawn versus Kanan, a matchup that actually kind of happens in Rebels. I love Kanan, he's great, but Thrawn is one of the most iconic Star Wars villains ever. Going Thrawn. Ahsoka versus Ventress, same kind of logic. Ventress is incredible, a great villain, great character, and a tragic story. But Ahsoka's still going, and we're still getting incredible stories with her. One of the biggest redemption arcs in all of Star Wars, the way her character is transformed into something we all truly love, going with Ahsoka. Luke versus Revan. This isn't a contest for me, even with as amazing a character as Revan is. Luke is one of my favorite Star Wars characters ever, going with Luke Skywalker. Yoda versus Maul. I think here this is a tougher one than you would think. You would think you'd go Yoda because he is the Grand Master of the Order, but I actually do think Maul has the better story. I'm going with Maul. I think he is an incredibly tragic character, a character we followed through canon in so many different ways, and the Legends character who's also had incredible development. Leia versus Qui-Gon, as much as I love Qui-Gon, I've got to go Leia here. Again, she's one of the founding pillars of Star Wars to me. Thrawn versus Ahsoka, as much as I love Thrawn as a villain, I do think I got to go Ahsoka here. We'll see this matchup later this year, and we'll see if maybe Thrawn's first live-action appearances carry him over the top. But Ahsoka, to me, is one of the best Star Wars characters we've ever gotten, an incredible Jedi, an incredible story. So that means we got Luke versus Maul. Again, as much as I love Maul, I'm going Luke here. And Leia versus Ahsoka. So this is a tougher one because as a kid who grew up with the Clone Wars, I've always really liked Ahsoka. I was kind of around when the Ahsoka fan club before that she got a lot of hate because I was young enough to enjoy her when I was a kid. It didn't bother me that her original personality. Leia as a character in both Legends and canon, I think is incredible. They've done a great job with her across so many stories. I love Ahsoka, I really do. And maybe soon this will be a contest for me, but I'm going Leia. So that makes the semifinal here, brother versus sister, Luke versus Leia. This is tough. It is tough. I have to think about it a little bit, but at the end of the day, Luke Skywalker is one of my favorite Star Wars characters ever. He's a character that I've grown so much over the years to love and appreciate his journey. So that makes my finals Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Luke Skywalker. And, it is a tough matchup for sure. When you're looking at it, I do love both of these characters, and these are probably regardless of the way the brackets are ranked here, structured, these are probably my two favorite Star Wars characters of all time. On the one hand, you have Luke, who's transcended both canon and legends, has incredible stories that go and expand universes and expand across all these wars and amazing things that he does. He becomes the most powerful Jedi of all time, in George Lucas's words. He has an incredible story in the original 3 movies, and I think they do a pretty good job with him and his redemption arc so far in what we've gotten in canon. I want to see a lot more from him in canon, though. But Obi-Wan, like I said, he is the reason I fell in love with Star Wars. His character was someone I always attached myself with. He's always been my favorite Star Wars character of all time. Might be anticlimactic if you've seen a lot of our other Star Wars stuff on this channel, because I've reiterated a billion times that Obi-Wan is my favorite Star Wars character. So if you're watching this and you're like, I already know he's going to pick him, I'm sorry about that. But I'm going Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is my favorite Star Wars character. So that's it. That's my my bracket. That's how I would do it if I was voting in all these. Again, there are 2 things I want to mention for sure from the play-in. I cannot believe all of you did not vote in Darth Santa or Talon Card. Those 2 characters, I feel like I'm absolutely blown away those were not voted in. 2 of my favorite Star Wars characters. Would they have made it out of the first round? Probably not in my bracket. So I'm not like completely devastated over it, but those 2 I was just blown away as upsets. There are other upsets that I was like, okay, I understand, but I think Santa lost to Admiral Akbar. But anyway, with that out of the way, that was my bracket. Hopefully all of you enjoyed that. Again, make sure you are sending us in your brackets so you can be featured in the recap video. Also, if you are not voting in the polls, make sure you're doing so. At this point, we only have a few rounds left. We're starting the Sweet 16 today, so make sure you are voting in that. You're going to want to make sure you make your voice heard. These were just my opinions. Let me know what you think of my opinions down below. I will have that bracket linked so you can all do it and you can all share your brackets with the world. Send them to us. Again, StarWarsLadsBusiness@gmail.com. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Stay tuned for more content. Like we've been promising, the High Republic is going to be a major part of June. We're currently finishing up the rest of the High Republic material from Phase 2 we hadn't finished, so keep an eye out for all of that. Streams will be beginning again. We've been incredibly busy and had some personal things that have taken us away from the channel a bit, but don't worry, we will be ramping up content here in June. We want June and July to start pushing our channel forward here and returning a lot of the original content you guys originally subscribed to our channel for. Thank you so much to everybody who's watching, and I'll see y'all next time.